baby. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
Welcome, folks. We've finished week 1. It was a rocky ride for all of us, but we are here to review week 1. I'm here with co-hosts Jangus. Jangus, give a quick hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Glad to be back for another week here.
Yeah, he did all right as a personality on the show, so I thought I'd bring him back. His picks need some work, but we'll talk about that later. And we got a new co-host today. Goes by the name of Big Ogs. Ogs, say hello to the crowd.
Thanks, Coaster. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to contributing to the podcast.
Perfecto. Okay, quick news update. Brian Cushing suspended 10 games. PED usage once again. You think you would learn from the first time, but the amount of concussions that man has received, I know his mental state is just not there. So am I surprised? No. Does this hurt the Texans? Yes. So I just thought I'd sneak that in. That was recent news. But now we'll move on to the main segment here. First game that I think we're going to review, just because I think it applies to all the people here. The Jets and the Bills. Jangus, take me through the score. What did you see? What did you like? What did you dislike?
Well, the Bills, my
Bills.
favorite team,
Right.
took this game 21-12 over the lowly Jets. But I don't know if it's really a win for the Bills. These are two teams that are going into the season on full tank mode. Like, they got their World War II tanks out and ready to rumble, and they're full tank mode right now. And the Bills came away with the defeat, so they are top of the division, as you know, with the New England Patriots loss. So, honestly, pretty boring game. The Bills came up by a touchdown early. Jets came back, and they ended up just pretty much barely squeaking by the Jets in really what was quite a boring game. So I don't know what there really was to see here for much fans. I'm sure they just switched the game over, even if they are as loyal as they are. But, yeah.
Ogs, what do you got to contribute on this one?
Well, I'm also a Bills fan, Coaster, but this week I wasn't very impressed. Very limited offensive output. They're very limited with the run game. That's all they pretty much have. Passing, they're pretty much just going to Clay all the time. Not really a lot of confidence in their offensive game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Do we have any final notes either of you want to add, or is this boring game to be moved on from? Yeah.
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones. Oh, where was he, honestly, for this rookie sensation we all wanted to see? Clay gobbled up 9 targets that game. I heard McCoy was doing McCoy things. That doesn't surprise me, but Jangus kind of hit the hammer on the nail with this one. Two teams trying to tank. Nothing really else new here. So, move on to the next game. Another boring game until the highlight of the week happened with my man, Austin Hooper. He doesn't need the ER. He needs the
there it is.
The Hooper, baby. What a stiff arm, eh? Ogs, what can you tell me that we need to know from this Falcons-Bears game? Other than, Austin Hooper.
And the human joystick, Tariq Cohen.
God bless Tariq Cohen.
Tariq Cohen. I'm going to say, the Bears, I'm thinking, might be like an Atlanta Falcons offense this year with a committee at running back, especially with seeing how Cohen can operate. Howard kind of stepping into the Devontae Freeman role where he's going to be your animal with points, and Hooper kind of as a Coleman kind of guy who can put up big numbers, but still is kind of going to be second behind Howard.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. Cohen was seeming to be the favorite target of Mr. Glennon, but there was really not much going in this game. Very low scoring, and wow, can we talk about those drops at the end of the game? It went, I believe, Bellamy with a drop, Howard with a drop, and someone squeezed in a third drop in there.
Miller or Shaheen? It was one of the tight ends.
Yeah, so, wow, if you're Mike Glennon, you go up to John Fox and you say, I did a good job today. If Trubisky starts next week, I'm lighting your house on fire. Because honestly, he did everything he could to win that game. And I'm going to give props to Mike Glennon considering his lackluster receiving corps.
Yeah, missing Kevin White, that's huge as well. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be a big contributor this year.
Definitely had the Hans, but other than that,
It's the coaster curse. That's what I would like to think about it.
okay.
The coaster curse is drafting Kevin White every year that he's been in the league, and every year he's played less than 4 games?
I think he's played a total of 5.
Broken collarbone. Sorry, Kevin White. Coaster drafted you again, so hopefully it doesn't happen next year.
See, the thing is, at least I didn't fall into the Allen Robinson trap this year, right, Changus?
Oh, okay.
It's not the
Yeah.
worst trap. There's worse traps.
There definitely is. There definitely
We'll get
is.
to 'em.
But you really can't do much if you're Mike Glennon. Your odds are stacked against you. So, do we have any final notes for this game?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that Tariq Cohen stuff. So he actually ended up with 12 targets in this game, which was 6 more than the next leading Bear, which was Zach Miller, and then Jordan Howard after that. So with the loss of Kevin White, it really leaves a big question mark in the Chicago Bears receiving corps, and it just based on those numbers, with 2 running backs in their top 2 targets and 1 tight end and no wide receiver, it just leaves you to believe that they don't really trust what they have in their wide receiver corps. I was a big believer in Kendall Wright at the start of the season. He only came up with 4 targets, so we don't really know yet. I mean, that could change, but it looks right now that this receiving corps is going to be largely based around backs.
Yeah, and it's week 1 as well. Somebody can always step up. So it'd be good to keep an eye on it as well, because somebody will probably step into that leading role at receiver.
Yeah, there's definitely a need in the Windy City, so we'll see who it is. But final note for me, I'd like to just give some credit to that defense in Chicago. Really limited Julio Jones. I think he only caught the ball 4 or 5 times. They did a good job locking him down. The man to catch was Mohamed Sanu and Hoopa, but 1 touchdown, 1 stiff arm later, and 1 excessive celebration by Dan Quinn. I really hope you all saw that. It looked like he won the Super Bowl. It was insane.
Yeah, I think he's exercising some demons there.
Yeah, there's definitely some remorse from that last game. But that's all we got for Falcons Bears. Let's move on to probably the most I don't want to say entertaining, but for me, as a fan of defense, definitely one of my favorite games, and that was the Ravens going into Cincy and making them look horrendous. Like, from start to finish, Dalton couldn't move. It seemed like the offensive line was within a yard of him every snap, just because the pressure from Baltimore was insane. Which one of you want to take the reins on this game?
Well, watching the game, it felt like I was watching it in 2006 or something. It was a flashback. The Ravens' defense was dominant. It reminded me of the Ray Lewis defenses that you usually see. Terrell Suggs, very good game, going into his 15th season, I think. Also, Tony Jefferson, the safety, lighting guys up. Just a very dominant defensive performance for Baltimore.
Jangus?
Yeah, on top of the dominant defensive performance by Baltimore, it was just really a lack of execution by Andy Dalton. I believe he was intercepted 4 times 4 times, and maybe even
There was a fumble in there for a total of 5 turnovers and -3 fantasy points.
Yeah, and that's just it's a little tough because I was a big Andy Dalton fan. I was really a believer in his bounce back season because he had his weapons returning in Eifert and Green, and it was just not a good week 1 performance from Andy Dalton. But Thursday Night Football coming up. Big, quick turnaround. So I think Dalton might be able to get it done on a Cushing-less Texans team.
Yeah, so would agree to that final point, but we'll dive into that later in the show. Some final notes I have from this game. Macklin looked pretty good as a Raven. First game, caught a TD. You can't complain as a Macklin owner. Another couple things. Woodhead, you're gone for a month. That hamstring is aggravating you once again. So now Buck Allen becomes of some sort of fantasy relevance. And then let's talk about quickly Joe Mixon. Oh, poor Mixon. He was missing, I can tell you that, because he only rushed the ball 8 times, and it was for sub 20 yards. Which, as one of the outstanding rookies this year, I think out of the Elite 5, there's no doubt he's at the bottom of that 5 list now, in my eyes.
Now, the good thing, though, for Joe Mixon in this game is that he wasn't the top back in terms of snaps, but he was the middle. And Jeremy Hill only played 10 snaps as the starting running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. Gio Bernard looked really good. He had 29 snaps, but that just kind of might be a result of the game script. They were down. They needed a passing back. So I think Mixon can totally jump into the starter's role, but it wasn't a good start for him in week 1.
Yeah, the thing with Mixon is Cincinnati's won 6 of the last 7 contests with Baltimore. So, if there's a big loss for them, they're going to want to change things up. Obviously, it's not working. Mixon could get in on the rotation more often.
You just never know with this Cincy team. It seems like Marv Lewis has a hard hat on for his 2 current RBs. So I do wish Mixon the best. He's an elite talent that just needs a better offensive line as well as a better overall offense in front of him. Okay, next we got probably one of the closer games of this week that we just didn't expect. And that was in the Dog Pound, Cleveland, Ohio. Oh. Kept the game close. DeShone Kizer didn't do half bad. Honestly, from the highlight tape, looked like a pretty composed quarterback. Made a couple errors here and there, but nothing substantial. To the point that Cleveland was within a possession of this game nearly the entire time. I was quite impressed with that. Always click and refresh to see that Steelers blowout I was hoping for, but wasn't coming. So it was not the best day as a Steeler, but you got the dub. That whole home road split for Big Ben is really starting to kick in. And can I give a quick shout out for the tight end of the week, Jesse James.
But you forgot about Colby Fleener.
Colby Fleener only got 1 touchdown, but Jesse James got 2, my friend. What do you guys want to add?
He looks like Heath Miller.
Heath Miller, sorry. Jesse James, Heath Miller, I get them mixed up all the time.
Fans in Pittsburgh do too.
Yeah.
Well, one thing to add, and it came at a tough pill to swallow for a lot of fantasy owners, Le'Veon Bell. That was not the Le'Veon Bell we know, and that could be a result of what was a training camp that he missed out on a holdout. But he still did just play 72% of snaps, so I think they were kind of easing him in, and that was really a main reason why Pittsburgh didn't run away with this game. If they had the Le'Veon Bell that we all know, I think this would have been a totally different contest.
I would agree. Oaks, do you have anything you want to say about this close match?
It's just the opening drive for Cleveland. I thought it was going to be a blowout, 3 and out, and then to have that blocked kick run back for a touchdown. Classic Cleveland, but they ended up scoring a touchdown. which is good. I didn't think that they could do it, just like the Bengals, So I think watching this game that the Browns are in better position than the Bengals are right off the bat.
Yeah, definitely turned some heads in Cleveland. I can't disrespect that. It appears that Corey Coleman is Deshaun Kaiser's favorite target. Does that surprise me? Not really, considering he has the most potential. Kenny Britt might be a bit bigger and be a bigger contributor as the season goes on, but he was not targeted often in this game. Other than that, I really got nothing I'd like to add. You guys want to finish off with anything?
Or Antonio Brown.
Oh, how did I forget about Antonio Brown? Tell me about Antonio Brown, Jangus.
Antonio Brown was Antonio Brown in this game.
I know that guy. He's really good at football.
Yeah. 182 yards, I believe, 11 targets. He pretty much single-handedly made Big Ben somewhat of a not fantasy disappointment this road start, because even if he was playing Cleveland, people did expect him to still come out and not really produce on the road. And really, Antonio Brown gave him 182 yards. Now, it would have been a hell of a performance if he got in the end zone, but 182 yards is definitely enough to satisfy his fantasy owners there.
I definitely would agree. I only got him in 1 out of 5 pools, so I was jumping for joy in only 1 out of 5. Still lost that week, for the record, but we can talk about some other things another time. Anyway, we're going to move on to, I believe, the highest scoring game of the week. And was that... No, it might be right behind the New England, Kansas City. Anyway, Arizona went into Detroit, and the biggest headline from this game had nothing to do with the game. It had to do with a person. Ogs, you want to just hint, maybe just tell the viewers out there what happened?
Well, it's not good news. It's David Johnson, so I know that's a lot of first-round pick Seward, which...
First overall pick.
Yeah, first overall
shebang.
pick. Sorry, yeah, first overall pick. So, I mean, pretty much the worst news you can get as a fantasy owner who picked David Johnson. But not coming back for 2 to 3 months.
This is true. I've heard multiple reports. I've heard he might not be back for Christmas. He might only be 2 months. He's a freak of nature. He can heal quick. But any way you look at it, this is bad news bears for basically any owner of David Johnson. I mistakenly traded for him a bit too quick, but that is a topic for another day. Jangus, what do you got?
If you are a fantasy owner in this case, what do you do with David Johnson? Do you... or not a fancy owner, or just a person in your league, you not necessarily have to own him. Do you go out and try and trade for him, hoping he's back for playoffs? Or do you hang on to him if you own him? What's the right thing to do here, Coaster?
Well, I'll tell you my trade. I thought it was a bit much, but this was also on the Sunday night before any big reports came out. I did this trade, with the intent that he would only be out for about 2 months. So I traded LeGarrette Blount, as well as Brandon Cooks, and in return I got Cobb and DJ. So, I had pretty good RB1 and RB2 in Hunt and McCoy, so I felt comfortable to trade that. But if I'm someone else and I own DJ, I would field trade offers, and if nothing applies, you hope you're high on that waiver priority and you snagged Kerwin Williams. He appears to be the next person in line. Do I think he'll get a lot of touches? Yes. Do I think he's going to be in a committee? Yes. So I wouldn't be going too nuts, but he's definitely a viable replacement. Otherwise, I think you got to bend over and take it, and you hope that he's back for playoffs. And if you can make playoffs without him, good on you. But let's get back to the game. Other than DJ getting injured, Carson Palmer, I think, aged 10 years during the course of that game. Ogs, can you agree with that statement?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Carson Palmer, remember when he came out of USC, had an absolute cannon. I'm talking Brett Favre level arm strength, and I just did not see any of that yesterday. He's a broken guy. His knees being held together. He's always wearing that knee brace. His shoulder obviously not in great shape. On the other side of the field, though, Matt Stafford.
Wow.
He is all the Lions have offensively. They couldn't run the ball yesterday very well. That big contract he just signed at the beginning of the year, I think it's worth every penny because he's the only offensive output the Lions have.
Would totally agree. Jangus, did you see anything else that you liked or disliked in that game?
Yeah, just a couple notes on a couple receivers here. Larry Fitzgerald had another big game.
Who had a day? What's his name?
Well, he didn't have a day really, but he had 77 yards. But Kenny Golladay had a day.
We should just call Sundays Galladays. You know, they're like holidays for Galladays. You know, subpar jokes are kind of my thing, but we'll continue. Jangus, keep going.
2 touchdowns, 69 yards on 4 catches for Golladay, and one really, really nice catch to, I believe, just put the Lions up a little bit more in that game in the fourth quarter. Stafford just put out an absolute beauty of a ball, and Golladay came down with it. That was his first touchdown, I believe.
I think it was his first.
It was his first, yeah. Another thing to note on the Lions side of the ball is what I found very surprising. Well, first off, Golden Tate, this isn't the surprising thing. 12 targets, 10 receptions, PPR monster. So if you had him in any of your leagues, you love that. But the big thing for me was Marvin Jones. 2 targets for Jones, which is just kind of questionable as your number 2 wide receiver. So
one was a touchdown.
One was a touchdown. One was a 35-yarder, I think. So he did salvage your day for fantasy owners, but that's kind of some eye-raising stuff if you're confident about Marvin Jones in the future.
While we're on this kind of receiving committee we have in Detroit. Goddamn Michigan. Anyway. By the way, I looked up some prices. This is very off topic, but so lads were thinking to get together, go to Detroit, and on the way see a Michigan Wolverines game. Makes a lot of sense to the average football fan. I do the Google for prices of a Michigan Wolverines versus the Michigan State Spartans. So I get it. It's Battle of Michigan. Big game. Give me your guess on the cheapest ticket available. It's in a month.
Mucho dollars, but I'm going to go with $350 US. Is that much?
I would say about that. I mean, in Michigan?
In Michigan at Ann Arbor, 100,000 people can fit in that stadium.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest, highest capacity stadium in the U.S., isn't it? Or one of them?
Yeah,
it is.
So you are both guessing 350 Ogs. Do you have a final number?
I'd ballpark around 300 just because of the capacity of the stadium.
See, because I was a bit unknown with the knowledge, I read 205, and I was still blown away. Considering the tickets for the Detroit game were $42. 42 versus 205? I get it's the Battle of Michigan, but come on. I'm not paying 202. Like, that's a mission to get there. So, anyway, I think we said all we need to say. Detroit's heading into New York, or I think they're at home. Do you guys want to wrap up with anything?
Yeah, one more addition here. Amir Abdullah, sleepy Amir Abdullah.
Yep, sleeping.
He definitely didn't wake up because he's still asleep. I mean, he might still have some sleeper potential, but he did not look good in this game, and we'll wait until week 2, hopefully, to see if that train finally gets going.
And do you know who it didn't even run across my brain that he was on that team this week? Was Eric Ebron. Where was he? I saw him start. I saw number 85 on a jersey, but he was just a non-factor. So that will be interesting to see if that continues the rest of the way.
And just a shout-out on the Detroit Lions side of the ball to a good friend, Brian Baggio. He drafted Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, and Eric Ebron. So if that is some great fantasy GMing, that's what I like to see out of Brian.
Yeah, that's all. Putting all your eggs in one basket for sure. Loading up on the Lions.
He clearly has not Googled the word diversification quite yet. But
Try it.
That's okay.
He knows diversification, though, that's for sure.
I hope he does. Anyway, we are moving on to, I would say, the most eye-popping game of the week. Not for the reasons you're thinking. And that would be the Jacksonville Jaguars looking good against the Houston Texans. I believe they accumulated 10 sacks in that game. Calais Campbell set a Jaguars record with a sack count of, I believe, 3, maybe even 4.
3.5, I think.
3.5. Yeah, I knew I was in the right area. But wow, did they look good on defense. There are some O-line troubles in Houston, so I guess we shouldn't have taken this as too big of a surprise. But there was also a sense of, are they going to gel this defense in Jacksonville? We knew the talent was there. I believe I said it last week. On paper, they have the best defense in the AFC. In reality, it looked like it on Sunday. They only managed to get 7 points, Houston. 7 or 9. And either way,
It was 9.
Jacksonville dummied them. They didn't let Savage do anything to the point that Deshaun Watson came into the game. And Lenny, tell me about Lenny, Oaks. What did you see from Lenny?
Lenny, Fournette, best start in their first game as a Jacksonville Jaguars rookie ever in the franchise. So best start you can have as a running back he had for his franchise. So, I mean, you can be very happy if you have Fournette right away, especially against a defense like Houston where you got JJ up front, Clowney up front. They don't have a bad defense. They have a very good defense. So if Fournette can put up a performance like that in his first game, you got to be a happy guy.
Just adding to some sad news about David Johnson first off, and now Allen Robinson.
This is more sad to you, but
It's more sad to me. I like the guy. I think he's a good football player. But anyways, he tore his ACL, and he's done for the season. So
Did you hear that? That was his ACL.
The first ACL of the season. Many more to come, I guarantee.
Of the regular season, bro.
Regular.
Yeah,
Yeah, regular.
Yeah, he looked pretty good, and he caught one ball, and on that ball, he tore his ACL. So that's all I have to say about Allen Robinson. But Leonard Fournette, as Tom was talking about him, 26 carries, and once Jacksonville got up, he just kept running. And his touchdown, like, if he ever ran into me with that force, I think my head would fall off. Like, that guy just bowled over the defender, and that was a heavy hit. But it looks like Leonard Fournette is the back that can take it, and I think he was 26 touches for 100 yards, a touchdown, and 24 receiving yards. So definitely a nice debut for Leonard.
Yeah, you gotta love the volume if you're a Leonard Fournette owner. He was as advertised. Doug Marrone said, if we could give it to him every down, we would. And look where we are. I don't think Blake Bortles threw it too many times, and why would you? It didn't make any sense. They were having relative success in the run game, so this was definitely a Jacksonville Jaguars game all around. They forced Savage to get pinned out. Like, I was pretty dumbfounded that he didn't even last the game. Like, Bill O'Brien, what's going through your head? How much do you not like this guy?
I don't think he lasted the first half, actually.
Yeah, he came in the second half. He did look like a genius for that first drive. Watson goes, yeah, you know what? I'll just lead you to the end zone and give it to the best playmaker they have in Hopkins. But I can't get behind Bill O'Brien's point. Do you guys have anything to add to wrap this game up?
I think they sat Tom Savage a little too early. You know, you throw a rookie into the fire right away like that, it usually doesn't end well. So if I was the Texans, I think they definitely sat Savage a little early. You know, I feel like Watson's the kind of guy you work into him. You work him in mid-season, game 6, game 7, maybe slot him in if Savage is struggling. I think O'Brien definitely pulled the trigger on Savage too early to sit him.
And just one more note, this Watson move by the Texans, which looks like it's permanent. I mean, even though it was extremely quick.
I think he's been named the starter for tomorrow at Thursday.
But knowing Bill O'Brien, he could change him in the 12th minute of the first quarter. But if Watson is the starter, this looks like it's good news for DeAndre Hopkins. He had 16 targets in this game, which is ridiculous numbers, and something that would definitely excite fantasy owners, especially if you want him to get anywhere near that production that he had 2 years ago when he was, I believe, a top 5 receiver in the league. So definitely some good news for Hopkins there.
Yeah, and as much as I hate him, he still got 20 touches. Lamar Miller, congrats. You did what you do every goddamn time. You touch the ball a lot, and you just managed to screw it up, Lamar. But, hey, volume sometimes will result in points. Yeah.
Miller, he just, every single time, sometimes he just finds a way to get RB2 or RB1 numbers just based on his volumes. He doesn't do much with the touches like Coaster was saying, but if this is a guy that you own in fantasy leagues, it's not the worst problem to have because you almost know you're going to get 8 points with him every week. So definitely not an exciting name, but Lamar Miller looks like he's a good standard or staple in your lineup every week.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't argue any of those points, but God, my burning hate for Lamar Miller will never end. I do not know why. I've always thought he was very, very overrated. Okay, next game. I don't have much to say, for the reason being I didn't watch this game. I caught a couple highlights, and that would be the Raiders going into Tennessee and performing pretty well. The Raiders won the game by 10 points in Tennessee. That's respectable. Tennessee was odds-on favorite to win the AFC South. They have a great O-line, equipped Mariota with receivers galore. And a fun fact, I think each receiver, including Delaney Walker, got above 8 targets or more. So Matthews, 8 targets. Decker, 8 targets. Delaney Walker, 9 targets. And Corey Davis got into double digits. Do you guys want to add something that you liked, at least from this game? Or is there not much to talk about other than offensive line, defensive line?
Well, it's just good to see Marshawn Lynch out there doing what he usually does. You know, guy comes back to play another season and looks like he hasn't missed a step. So, I mean, if you drafted him, that's just a reinforcement. You can have confidence in him from week 1.
But the point I want to make about Marshawn Lynch is we never should have doubted that Marshawn Lynch is going to be looking good week 1. The thing that we need to remember about Marshawn Lynch is that he's 32, and in week 6 or 7 might start breaking down. So this isn't the time to get all excited about him. If he has a couple big weeks, I would say if you own him in fantasy, ship him off because he's going to break down later in the season for sure.
He looks to be the feature back right now, but you know, a guy who's that old, being a feature back, probably won't take you too deep into the season.
Yeah, I believe Jalen Richard got 5 rushes compared to Marshawn Lynch's 18. So,
and Cordero Patterson had 1.
He got 1? Did he get any catches? I don't think so.
Didn't have a catch, I don't think. No.
If any injuries happen, he'll be a guy to watch, though.
Yeah, for sure. But I also want to give props to Jared Cook. Snagged every target that came his way this week. No touchdowns for the guy, but he was looking good.
He's an athlete.
He really is. I think he'll be an underrated factor to the playoff run Oakland is bound to be making.
And one point about Oakland again, the 100% man, Seth Roberts.
Oh,
he found a way in the end zone once again. Derek Carr loves him, even though he showed him 1 target. But he got a touchdown. So, way to go, Seth Roberts. You are a vulture.
He is a vulture. Jangis, I will give you the props for making that call, but you can't act all hot pissed because you got 1 touchdown guy correct. But I love it. I do love it. So, we're going to move on from this game just because other than the Titans being a bit of a mess in that red zone, they failed a few times. It was pretty evident with the amount of field goals they kicked. So, other than that, you really didn't miss much other than beast mode being beast mode. And on the topic of him doing well in the earlier weeks, who does he have next week? my New York Jets. Marshawn Lynch. I'm not even going to give you my hot take yet, but it's fire. It's actually not even hot. It's just fire take. But we'll get there in the week 2 prediction segment. So, we're moving on to Carson Wentz stepping into Washington and taking them to town. The defense looked pretty good from the Eagles. Pass rush was there all day. I wouldn't say there was concern for the Washington offensive line, but Philadelphia definitely lived up to their hype. I believe they were a part of the 20-point club in the defensive stats for fantasy this week, which is impressive. Carson Wentz looking like the number 1 overall pick, not a number 2 overall pick. I can tell you that for free. If you're an LA Rams
Jared Goff
fan.
did pretty good this week, though.
We will definitely get to Jared Goff and those those ramming Rams. Holy. But anyway, Carson looked efficient, poised, calm, collected. And then the man who drops balls for a living but still titles himself as a receiver, Nelson Aguilar, came through with a touchdown that definitely bolstered the Eagles to their success. Do you guys have anything to add? Do you want to talk about something in particular about this game?
Well, a little shout out to Coaster because he told you to play Zach Ertz last game. And Zach Ertz did everything that we DFS folks wanted to and caught all 8 of his targets for 93 yards. So, quick shout out. On top of that, Terrell Pryor looked pretty good. He had 11 targets, so led the offense. And just a note on Jordan Reed. He had a foot injury coming into the game. They later came out and said that he's dealing with a fractured toe. So, bit of a red flag for sure. He said he felt fine, but, I mean, what's he going to say? He hurts a lot. So, Jordan Reed, red flag, and Washington really faltered really all game. Their offense didn't look that great other than Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's definitely some concern for Fat Rob and Samaje Perine. He's a very fun name to say.
0 offensive touches or snaps for Perine. Nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't even get on the field.
Yeah. So if you drafted him, sucks. And if you didn't draft him, I'm not going to lie, this might be a good kind of buy low opportunity.
I was about to say that.
It just makes a lot of sense. If he didn't get any touches, the person probably doesn't want him anymore. And if you got something, I don't know, I would do something like Allen Hurns for Samaje Perine if you need some wide receiver help. Something subtle. Nothing great. You don't want to give away any pieces to your puzzle. Just saying Samaje Perine, even if you can get him on waivers, that would be ideal. That's an ideal world. You stuff him and you hope for the best. Anyway, we're going to move on from Wentz's great game on to what? We're up to that ramming. Okay, so what I want to establish with you guys is I want your takes. I'm assuming there's going to be agreement, but I'm not crazy to say that the Colts are this bad and the Rams just took advantage of that, rather than the Rams being a 37-point victor in this game. So,
46-9 final
yeah,
score.
37. Wow.
Points.
So, okay, what jumped out at you at this game, fellas?
Well, for me, the Colts, they're nothing without Andrew Luck, really. They're unorganized. They can't get anything going offensively. They lack leadership, really. They remind me of the Colts from 2010 or 2011, I think, whenever Peyton Manning had his neck injury, where Curtis Painter took the helm.
The Painter.
Yeah, and things didn't go well, and I'm seeing the same thing here. Andrew Luck, he's not the best player in the league, but he's the most valuable player to his team. Without him, the Colts, they're nothing. They're a Cleveland Browns level team.
They're a 46-9 loss type of team, to
Yeah.
be specific. I will say the defense and special teams of LA looked fantastic. There is a dire need for offensive help in Indianapolis, let's not get that past anyone. But they didn't have Aaron Donald, their best player on defense, and still managed to put, I think, 20, depends on your scoring of your leagues, but they were also another 20-plus point
28.
team. Yeah, 28 on DraftKings, which really helped, but it helped about 50% of the field, so
It helped
that
me.
kind of sucked. Yeah, it helped him. Look at him. He won.
Woohoo.
I will congratulate that. That was we got a DraftKings league, 10 members, winner take all. I will say I came middle of the pack. Call me average in a lot of areas. That's all right. Jangus can take week 1 because you know what they say, beginner's luck. You can always take week 1, but try and win 2 weeks, Jangus. Anyway, final notes on this game.
I would say Jared Goff, really confident in him this year. They have a new coaching staff. You could tell the difference in the play calling. They had a lot more open of an offense. He's got a good receiving core this year, above average, which he usually has an average receiving core. Last year he did. This year it's an above average one. He has a good offensive line. If there's no success in Los Angeles this season, I think it goes on his shoulders because he has everything he needs to succeed there right now.
I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on that Goff talk.
Why is that, Jangus? What did you not like from
There's plenty to
46.9?
like. There was plenty to like from Jared Goff. But the problem was they're playing the lowly Indianapolis Colts, and this could be, they're going to be fighting with the Jets for one of the worst teams until Andrew Luck gets back.
That's very true.
So I'm going to pump the brakes on the Jared Goff talk, and we're going to wait a couple more weeks to see if this guy's legit.
Yeah, it's week 1. It's easy to overreact. That's just what I saw. Goff, 309 yards. How many touchdowns did he throw? 1 or 2? I think he had that.
I think he did have 2.
One to Cup, and then the other 2.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about cup of tea.
Oh.
Wow. Look good.
Give me
Yeah.
the cup of Joe.
Yeah, Goff threw that one post to him. I think it was in the second half. Perfectly thrown ball right to Cup, touchdown. I think it was 18 yards. That was looking good.
There's definitely light at the end of the Rams tunnel. That is for sure.
Yeah, bright future, I think.
One note to add there. The Rams are paying Tavon Austin a lot of money to do nothing. So if they want to include them in their plans, that might be a good idea. I don't know. Maybe he's not good at football, but he had 7 snaps. That's it. That's all. So that's a note that is kind of relevant because they're paying him a lot of money to do nothing.
I would agree. Paying someone to do nothing just doesn't make sense in anyone's train of thought.
Unless you're Tavon Austin, I'm sure you're not complaining.
Brock Osweiler can be added to that list for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Big Brock. I did like Big Brock at one point in my life. 6'7". It's like 240.
Big human.
Big human, ready to toss the ball. Too bad he can't do it effectively.
No.
Anyway, next game. My hot take of the week just was nowhere near.
Blew up in your face.
It literally was atomic bomb hot, and I just didn't get away from the bomb because it didn't move. That was the Seattle Seahawks going into Lambeau. I said above 80 points. That's what you're going to see in this game. It's going to be 42-42. And what was it? 17-9. One touchdown was thrown by the quarterbacks. And to me, that is probably the thing that stuck out the most. Because Aaron Rodgers, I get it. You went against the Legion of the Boom. Pretty good. Pretty good secondary. Probably one of the best, if not the best. Russell Wilson, though, how bad is that O-line? I need to watch more game tape because it just seems apparent that he can't get enough time to throw the ball. He's got talent around him. It just didn't make any sense how he couldn't manage to get a touchdown. I heard they did pretty well on the no-huddle offense at the end of the game. That's when they saw some success offensively, but otherwise wasn't much. What do you guys want to add to this game?
Well, Aaron Rodgers did kind of bring it on in the second half and was throwing pretty well in the first half. But one big note is that the Randall Cobb resurgence is back. 13 targets. And this offense really looks like a 3-headed monster. I mean, you add in Ty Montgomery.
the back there, and you've got Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, and a little bit of usage with Martellus Bennett. But Cobb looked really good. He had caught 10 of his 13 targets. And Ty Montgomery got in for the score. He looks undoubtedly to be the lead back in Green Bay. There was a little bit of questioning with the rookie Jamal Williams going in, but Mike McCarthy made it known that it was all Ty Montgomery all day for the Packers.
Oaks, you want to add anything to this one?
Well, I just think it's big that Seattle's offense didn't put up a single touchdown, and you can put the blame square on the offensive line. Russell Wilson's lucky he's mobile. If he wasn't mobile, we'd probably be talking about his backup this week starting the next game.
Who is it? Is it Trayvon Boykin?
No,
Or
it's
did they got-
Austin Davis.
Davis!
Don't play him. Don't play him in fantasy.
Great job if you didn't play him this week. He was a
Thumbs
valuable
up.
sit. Valuable sit this week. So
On the Seahawks side of the ball in this game, though, they were all bad. Newsflash. But
PPR Baldwin was okay.
Jimmy Graham was horrible. I own him in both leagues, and I'm a big fan.
Huge Jimmy fan.
Sensitive
And-
topic for you, isn't it?
I'm almost in tears. He had 8 yards and 7 targets and 1 catch. So that wasn't very good, Jimmy. Don't do it again. Thank you.
He did ask nicely. Jangus did ask nicely, Jimbo. So maybe he can give you some production next week. Who does he have next week? San Fran.
I like it. Bounce back.
Definitely a bounce back. They're at home. That stadium's going to be nuts. Oh, my God. I could just see the anger they have for not scoring a touchdown. Basically, we've hit all the points. Montgomery, PPR God this year. Great volume. Jamal Williams barely got on the field, so that was good to see. And quick shout-out, Packers D. You know, like, as bad as the offensive line is, we talked about it quite a bit. You still got to admire the amount of blitzing they did to keep the pressure on Russell on every drive. The secondary did their jobs, stayed in their spots. So let's see if that's a trend that could continue for Green Bay. But they are going in to the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta next week. That's
Not
gonna be
fun.
not
That's going to be a
fun.
good game, hopefully.
Sunday nighter. So definitely.
But
prime
then again,
time.
we thought this was going to be a good game, and for most fans, it really wasn't. Unless you like a ton of blitzing and a lot of defense, then this wasn't really the game for you.
I will say this hot take could come back for another 80-point hot take, and it's definitely more realistic. this
Coaster's
week.
weekly hot take of 80 points.
It will happen one day, folks, and that week I look like a god. But anyway, we move on to Cam Newton shutting down the San Francisco 49ers. As advertised, the 49ers just looked a bit out of sync. Kyle Shanahan only managed to put up 3 points, where Cam managed to get 23. It's a margin of victory of 20, San Francisco. So you'll definitely need to step up in the later weeks. Cam definitely not 100% yet. It was evident Jonathan Stewart was getting the ball. McCaffrey was getting the ball. Anyone they could hand it off to that wasn't Cam Newton himself running, they did it. And if he was a bit injured and he didn't get the first team reps, it was definitely a good move because they were playing a rather, how can I say this politely, bad team in San Francisco.
Yeah, the Brian Hoyer Niners.
Brian Hoyer. Like I said last week, I don't mind Brian Hoyer, but he's got no one to throw to.
He didn't do much there. But there is one person he did throw to, which was Pierre Garçon.
Pierre Garçon.
And Pierre Garçon looked okay in this game. I mean, he was trailing most of the game. He was 6 for 10 targets, 81 yards. Really didn't do too much for you in standard leagues, but in PPR, then you were a little bit more happy with him. Another note was Carlos Hyde only had 9 carries. I mean, that's obviously an effect of the game script, but he did have a career-high 6 targets in the passing game, so Hoyer was looking for him, so that's a little bit of an upside for Carlos Hyde owners.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Carlos Hyde. It's just a terrible position to be in when you're on a team that is often trailing and you're going to have to pass the ball. I get it. You're a viable target out of the backfield, but it's pretty simple. You can't get a lot of touches as a running back on a bad team. It's unfortunate, but that's Carlos Hyde's life. He's probably living a better one than I currently am, making multiple millions of dollars, but that's all right. Other than that, Reuben Foster went down with an injury. He'll
Not good.
definitely a building block of San Francisco's new and improved defense. Gone. Do you guys know for how long? I know it's for an extended period of time. I just don't know if it's more than a month. We are trying to crash the numbers here, but got nothing. That's okay. I think it's somewhere in the range of 4 to 6 weeks, similar to Danny Woodhead, but that's fine. So we're gonna move on to prime time.
Wait.
Reuben Foster, high ankle sprain, timetable unknown as of yet.
So
Unknown.
we didn't know it. They don't even know it either, so it's not our fault.
So I'm a doctor, though. Dr. Coaster.
Dr. Coaster,
I'm going to say 2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4. Ooh.
High ankle sprain? That
no.
sounds about right.
I'm going more.
More?
Taking the over on 2 to 4
Okay,
weeks.
so over. Okay, we'll go at the over-under at 3.5 weeks.
3.5, take the over. I'll put most of my money on it.
I will say under and probably flick a toonie your way if it happens otherwise. But
One more note on this game, getting away from Reuben Foster, because he is irrelevant to me, because I'm not a San Francisco fan, or he doesn't do anything in fantasy. Unless you play IDP leagues, and if you do, just don't do that, because they're stupid. Kelvin Benjamin was horrible in this game. He had only 5 targets and only had 1 catch. But I think this was mostly just a trickle-down effect from Cam Newton just being pretty bad. He's obviously not 100%, like Coaster said, with the shoulder injury. And then Christian McCaffrey led the team in targets with 7. So he had 13 rushes and 7 targets. So he is getting some volume, but I don't know if it's the volume that everyone in fantasy really expects from the Panthers quite yet.
and
Just the high ankle sprain in the NFL, average time to recover 4 to 6 weeks.
Take
So
the
there
over.
you go. That's
There's
the
your over.
doctor's diagnosis right there.
I forgot to mention it's Dr. Ogs, not just Ogs at
Yeah,
the beginning.
4
of
to
the
6
show.
weeks, folks.
Okay. We're going to move on to primetime, where we saw Odell-less New York Giants traveling to Dallas. And I managed to watch that entire game. And the biggest thing for me was a combination, they kind of work hand in hand, of the offensive line of Dallas having just complete control of the game to the point where time of possession was just too much for New York. I think they had 10 more minutes on time of possession than New York. They were unable to get anything going, but if you look at the splits of Eli Manning with Odell Beckham versus without, it's hilarious. And he's a game changer. I can't deny that. But you would think Brandon Marshall would have made a better impact until I think he caught 1 ball in the literal last minute. So there's that. What do you guys have to say about this game?
Odell is going to get paid. He's going to get paid. We already knew it, but this game just solidified it because the Giants are nothing without him. Manning couldn't do much. He went to Sterling Shepard a ton in this game. I believe he was 7 for 8. So he just kind of showed his value there, even though he was a little bit of an afterthought with Brandon Marshall coming in. And then Marshall saw 4 targets. A lot of them were misthrown balls, though, so I'm not going to rag on Marshall, but I don't think he's going to get any output unless Odell's in the game and can draw those big corners off him, because he was pretty much invisible in this game.
I think also for this game, keeping with the quarterbacks, this establishes Dak Prescott is for real. Last year, he ran an offense that was tailored for a rookie to run it after Romo went down. This game, you can see they were running a lot more complex offensive schemes. Dak was making bigger throws, more complex throws. So I think that this game just shows that Dak Prescott is going to be hanging around for the next 10 to 12 years as a solid franchise quarterback.
What was a little different, though, with Dak, he did look a little nervous in the first quarter. He was overthrowing a couple balls. And one thing to note was they threw to Dez 3 times in a row in the red zone. And I don't know if that pleased Zeke too much, but he didn't get any of those red zone carries. So they threw to Dez 3 times. And kind of shows that Dak was a little nervous. But next time, just give it to Zeke, because you know that ball's getting in the end zone.
Yeah.
There's got to be a little hesitation from Garrett with Zeke playing this year. Yes, he avoided the suspension. Yes, you're fired up that Zeke is back. And yes, he's still a monster. He proved it this week. He made it look easy running through the tackles. But I just feel as if there's something going on in that locker room with Zeke. Did some bad stuff. Let's not get around it. I loved how he showed some cleavage at a parade and all, but some other things are just, tough to get around as just a person. Let's not talk about an NFL player. So maybe that's it. Or maybe they just wanted to get Dez the ball. You could definitely look at it from a lot of perspectives. But all I know is Dallas looked good on offense, but their defense I still think is quite suspect. They played an offense that I think is no better than Indianapolis with Jacoby Brissett playing this week.
Hot take. Kind of.
Kind of, but if you're going to prove me wrong, Eli, if Odell doesn't play this week,
He will, by the way.
he should.
He will.
He got a full
100% he's going to
He's
play.
got 8 days.
Yeah.
Because he plays on Monday night against Detroit. So,
Yeah. Extra resting time.
yeah. But I'm telling you, if Odell ever falls to an injury, Eli Manning is, I think the best term I heard for him was a statue. Because he's pretty much that.
He's got his feet in concrete, though.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
at all times. That offensive line did not help him. Perkins only ran 7 times. There was definitely not a lot to like as a Giant fan, but I'm sure they will bounce back when Odell comes back. So let us wait till Monday for that one. And then the Monday Nighter came. The first game.
Monday Nighters came.
Oh,
Double headers.
doubleheader. Oh,
I love week 1 because of that.
I literally wish they did that more often. It just makes a lot of sense. They're doubling their revenue on anything. We're all going to watch it. All you got to do is shove 1 p.m.er to a Monday Nighter. Yeah, teams get short weeks, but whatever. It's more money. Think about it.
Screw player safety.
Screw it! Okay. What happened? The Saints traveled to Minnesota. Dalvin Cook, game 1. What does he do? Breaks Adrian Peterson's rushing record for a rookie in his first game. They came out on top 29-19. What was your biggest takeaway from the game? I'll go Jangus. Give it to me.
Well, as you said, AP came back to Minnesota and watched Dalvin Cook break that record, but didn't do too much himself. That running back by committee, if you want to call it, in New Orleans just didn't really look very good. Kamara, Peterson, Ingram, and even Ted Ginn got a rush. Well, he's not a running back, but we'll give 1 to Ted Ginn. 7 carries for Kamara, 6 for Peterson, 6 for Ingram. They all were pretty terrible in this game. Give credit to the Minnesota defense. They look to be another stellar unit this year, so that was definitely one thing. And another was New Orleans' inability to
score. They got in the red zone several times, but they kicked a lot of field goals in this game. So we were sitting there watching, and Will Lutz was a star.
Vilutz.
Will Lutz. So he was a fantasy stud this week because Drew Brees and co. couldn't contribute, couldn't do their part in the red zone. So that's definitely something to look out for, but I think they'll be okay. But they've got a tough matchup this week with the Patriots. So
That will be an interesting one. Ogs, do you have anything that you want to add that you liked, disliked from this game?
Well, definitely the Saints running game didn't. We already went over it. Three different guys, and none of them contributed very well. Breeze was pretty much all of the offensive yardage that they put up, especially in that last drive. That's all I can say for that one, really.
What I want to add is a couple things. We'll start with Sam Bradford looking like a god.
Yeah.
First overall
carved
pick.
him up.
He proved that this whole New Orleans has got a better D. Watch out. They're going to be good with Drew Brees at the... What do you mean they got a better D? Sam Bradford just put you to shame. He not only put them to shame, nearly by himself. I think he had a completion percentage, in the high 70s. He put two receivers in the top 5 of fantasy this week, which is just a sad fact when their names are Wheelin' and Dealin' Thielen and Mr. I'm all of a sudden elite, Stephon Diggs. I will give him mad props. There was multiple catches that he made, other than the wide open end zone blown coverage on one of their first couple drives. That he looked great. I'm quite rattled I did not get Diggs in any of my pools. But there was a lot to like from Sam Bradford, and when you get 127 or whatever the number was from Dalvin, this is a scary team. They still have some offensive line trouble. I thought New Orleans actually did a pretty good job kind of pressuring Minnesota, but they didn't get enough hits on them.
Couple points on the Minnesota side of the ball. If you are a Dalvin Cook owner, you've got to be really excited. 1, with the production you saw, and 2, with the non-production you saw from the other two backs. When Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon got in the game, I kept saying it, they looked brutal. They didn't even challenge Cook at all. And then when you had Cook in the game, he's your dual threat option. He can catch passes. He can run the ball. Latavius Murray, I believe he did fumble the ball. It wasn't called a fumble. And then McKinnon ran for a loss a few times. And, Lat only had 2 carries, and I think McKinnon caught a couple balls. But, did not look good other than Cook. And that Vikings receiving core, going back to Thielen and Diggs, I just want to point out how underrated Adam Thielen is. 157 yards, 9 receptions. He was drafted 117th, 120th in most fantasy leagues.
Yeah, deep
Very
into
deep.
the double digits.
And if this production holds up, you're getting a pretty solid player, a 60-yard floor almost every week. So definitely want to shout out Adam Thielen.
Yep. White guys that can catch, hard eyes emoji. Is basically
someone
how I
had
feel.
to fill in for Julian Edelman, so there
Julian
he is.
Edelman.
There's your guy.
White, the new Julian Edelman.
Right.
The new Julian Edelman.
I like that. That might not even be that much of a hot take.
Dealin', Thielen, the new Julian Edelman.
Close.
We'll have it next week.
Yeah. Okay. Final game, and then we're done talking. You can finally exit out of your browser or whatever you're using to listen to this. We had Ogs' former team, the newly LA Chargers, go into Mile High Stadium, Denver.
Sergio Dip. Can't forget about Sergio Dip.
You cannot. You really
man.
just can't.
Big
Kind
star.
of feel for the guy though, man. He didn't want to mess up, but he just talked and rambled on in his second language.
What was he saying? Living the dream? Living the dream.
He's living the dream. He's got diversity because he was a quarterback and then a defensive back coach, and now he's living the dream. That'd be Dippers.
Yeah. Well, do I feel bad for?
Oh, man.
is it Soo Young?
Young Ho.
Young Ho, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, your grade 9 or
Young Ho Koo.
yeah, the Young Ho Kim. Oh, Koo. God. Kim Koo. They only got 2 last names in that country anyway. But let's move on to the game recap. So I watched the first 3 quarters of this game. It made me turn off the game because I bet on the Chargers. And did I ever make a big mistake? So first 3 quarters, I'll tell you what I saw. I saw a calm, confident Trevor Siemian, something I don't think we've ever seen.
He was looking good out there.
Throwing the ball deep. Usually not used to that, but that happened a few times. Precision passing. There was a couple tight holes he managed to just find, which I was very impressed with.
He's throwing on the run very well, too.
Yeah, and C.J. Anderson, congrats. You are the lead back.
Jamal Charles did not look bad in this game, though. He got a few touches, actually. He got 10 touches near the end of the game. He had 40 yards, average of 4, same as CJ. He was 20 for 81. So
I was blown away with his lifetime average, rush attempt average.
5.6.
Like, that is the NFL all-time great stat. That is a fact, which is just rowdy when you think about it if you're Jamal Charles. Ogs, what did you see in this game that you liked, disliked? Any takes?
Well, for me, I just disliked seeing the Los Angeles Chargers as opposed to the San Diego Chargers. That's pretty much it for me.
And
Still sour about that.
Oh,
the
yeah.
ref actually called them the San Diego Chargers. So I don't know if you guys saw that, but he said, I don't know, San Diego penalty. And everyone was like, uh-oh, that's not right. So, I mean, I can see how you do it. You're in Denver, not L.A. If you were in L.A., and you called them San Diego, you were just
I think
out
you
to
need
lunch.
a new career.
Yeah, you dipped it. You dipped it.
Yeah, Philip
You
Rivers.
dipped
You dipped it. I feel like that's going to be a trend on this podcast. But Philip Rivers, you took too long to wake up in the game. I saw the highlights of your fourth quarter. Looked pretty good. But I watched your first 3 quarters. There was just not much to like. I get it. You were kind of under duress from the Denver team, who has a strong front, as well as a pretty good secondary. They were without Akeem Talib, but they managed to do just fine. Tyrell Williams filled in that role as your wide receiver too. I believe he was the leading pass catcher. He only had 54 yards, though, so that should speak volume to Philip Rivers' night. The touchdown catch by Gordon was good to see. As a fantasy owner, it is evident this is your guy. They didn't win the game, nor were they really in the lead at any point. So seeing the volume that he got in this type of situation is positive. It is great to see. So, do you guys have any final notes on this final game?
One guy I can't wait to see come back will be, he hasn't even started yet, but Mike Williams. That'll be a guy to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on his rehab. When he can come back, I think he can be a big threat in San Diego. Or Los Angeles, sorry.
Good one, Ref.
There we go.
Dipped it. I just want to add that Melvin Gordon, he looked good, but they didn't really get a chance to be up in this game. And with Anthony Lynn as the head coach, he's known as a run-first head coach, so he's always going to lead with the run, and if these guys get up, I'm sure you're going to see a ton of Melvin Gordon, and he's just going to be a beast for a lot of fantasy teams. So I can't wait to see the Chargers get up in a game and have a positive game script for the running backs, because it's just going to be Melvin Gordon all day.
Yeah, can't disagree. Why wouldn't you run with your man? Because he is a first-round pick that is panning out to be your franchise player, because Philip Rivers is on the way out soon enough, ladies and gentlemen. So, saddle up. Get ready for Melvin Gordon this year. I think he might even be the number 2 back by the end of the season. We will see. But anyway, shall we wrap this up? Or do we... You know what? We're going to make the fans wait one more day for our Thursday night preview. So we're going to call it quits here. I thank Oaks for coming out. Jangus, I guess I didn't mind your presence, but I got to deal with you on a weekly basis anyway. So thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. That was week 1, as wild as advertised, and I hope you enjoyed this past hour. Thank you. Cheers from Coaster.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Adios. Avita Zane. How many ways can I say goodbye? Okay, we're done.
We're gonna skate to one song only.
Yeah, so hard, motherfuckers wanna find me.